Welcome to the Chief Aim podcast. This is your weekly dose of real experiences, insights, strategies, and action steps for entrepreneurs who want to build and are building something incredible. Welcome back to the Chief Aim. We are still in Dubai. I decided to just move out here and live with Seb.
He's moved in. He's not allowed to live here for too long though. I'm going to kick him out after this episode actually.
We're starting to grate on each other's nerves now. The next episode is going to be Seb versus Jason.
Yeah.
And
it's all these little ticks he's got, you know, all these annoying little things he does, which you guys don't see on the episodes because he's very professional.
Check out some of these photos. You be the judge of that. Anyway. Let's get on to this episode, which we're going to be talking about. We've gone back to the verses, so this is in the verses playlist, and we're talking about short-term versus long-term in terms of everything. So
mindset, business, career,
where you see yourself, what your plan is for it, and vision. Yeah. So and also building an audience and you know your social profile and things like that. So.
Start with vision, shall we?
Vision.
So I think some of the most successful business owners or successful families or even the most wealthiest kind of cultures are the ones that have the longest view, right? Like if you look at the Chinese culture or even a lot of the Asian cultures, Japanese culture, they think generations ahead. It's not just like a one-off, generation. It's they're investing for 3 or 4 generations time. They'll never see the return on investment of the seeds they're planting, right? And these are some of the most successful families in the world or successful businesses in the world because they've got such a long-term view. I think there's something to learn from that and apply to your own life. One of the things that I see a lot of business owners doing is, let's just say they've got you start a business, and I was kind of at fault from a mindset point of view for a while, where you start a business, it goes really well, and there's an element of you which is like, I'm really enjoying doing this, I love this work I'm doing, this life I've built. It's almost like, is this too good to be true? And of course you've worked really hard to get to that stage. Of course it's not too good to be true. You're just not recognizing the difficulties or the low times because you're focusing so much on the positives. But the reality there is there's an element of you need to quickly achieve everything so you don't lose it, so it doesn't like escape through your fingers. And I think a lot of business owners feel that way. And for me, my mindset kind of shifted around COVID. For me, my business was completely shut down during COVID. We were a very physical, in-person business. So it was one of the times where I feel like my mettle was really tested as an entrepreneur. I created several other businesses, one with Jason as well. And it was a situation where I was kind of right in the trenches as an entrepreneur, right? I had to come up with loads of creative ideas. And I learned through that just how resilient I was, how creative I could be when I really needed to be, when my back's against the wall and I've got no other choice. And how much I enjoyed that process. And so what that kind of showed me was, there's actually a huge amount of safety in learning entrepreneurial skills, because when the economy goes down or there's a pandemic, whatever it is, you've got the ability to create something out of nothing, and you've got the resilience then to use that. And so for me it became, I kind of realized actually I don't need to quickly get lots of success in my life. I can look at things with a very long-term approach because I'm in this for the long haul. Like I'm an entrepreneur by career, right? Since I was 19 I started running my own businesses. And so for me it's like, I understand now that this is a 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 year career that I've started. And some of the most successful, I think statistically, the most successful business owners in their late 40s, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think when you've got that approach to your business, things start changing. You start calming down a little bit. You start to be a bit more patient, and you start to look at some of the investments you're making within your business with a much more long-term view, which has many, many benefits.
Yeah, I think just making the decision, it's really important to go into something that you actually enjoy and love, right? Because instead of thinking about it as a business and a job and a way of generating income, just think about it as living and something you're going to do for the rest of your life, and just how can you be paid to just do what you love for the rest of your life. There's a massive compounding effect that happens when you do that as well. And one of the guys that always springs to mind is David Attenborough. David Attenborough has been doing the same thing since I was a kid. He's now 97 this week, and he will never ever get to see the impact that he's gonna his message basically. He's trying to reverse the planet well-being and all the rest of it, and he'll never see that. But the fact that he's actually just done that, and what a great life he's had, like an amazing life. He's just been able to travel the world, work with animals and nature, and he's just he's a legend, right?
That's a brilliant example. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have like this idea, like there's an end goal, right? It's like I'm building up to this thing, and then I'll be happy. And I'm like, this is everything in my business is to get to this point. And some of the biggest businesses have visions which are kind of infinite. It's like, I want to see this around the world, or I want this to come to light, or like the Warrior Academy's vision is to inspire a generation to make a global impact, right? And so we've built a charity, which I'll talk about in a minute, which has got a 100-year vision, and it's designed to outlive me and be passed down to generation to generation, and so on. And so for me, it's understanding that if you treat your life and your business like you've got an end goal and that's it. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have an exit strategy, because it's sensible to have that, because it really does organize you and your business in a very sensible, professional way. But if you see your whole life as trying to get to this one end state within the next 10 years or 20 years, and that's it, then what you can often have is what I call a beer and pizza moment. And it's a story I heard of this guy who built an incredible business, spent 20, 30 years building his business. He then sold it, and he didn't have a wife or family, didn't invest any time into his social life or his friendship groups, whatever, but had success just in that one pillar of his life, business, right? Sells his business for £500 million, gets the phone call through, congratulations, you sold your business, and then he's in his apartment on his own. He goes to the fridge, he orders some pizza, goes to the fridge, pulls out a beer, sits on the sofa, and he realizes he's achieved his life's work, and he's sat at home in his apartment on his sofa with a beer and a pizza, and he's lonely, and he feels empty, because he's basically pinned everything, the entire success or failure of his life, on that one exit, right? The one end goal. Like everything was building up to that. And a lot of people do that and they feel just lost. So for me, I think, like Alex Hormozy says, it's, as he calls it, the game, right? And creating this infinite game. I think family is an infinite game. Your health is an infinite game. You're developing a business which impacts people's lives is an infinite game. It's, your career as an entrepreneur is an infinite game. And I think that, seeing it that way is actually quite reassuring and gives you that kind of that moment to pause and relax and just focus on the other things in your life that are also really, really important.
Yeah. So then that moves on to how can you enjoy it more, right? If you're going to do this thing for a long term, and it's always wise, as you said, you might not want to sell the business, but it's also always a good idea to build a business as if it could be sold, because that it makes you organize the business in a way that is very efficient, very effective. So you think long term, you think I'm going to do this for a long time. So then it's like, what do I need to do now then to do more of the stuff that I love, to make this even more enjoyable for me longer term? And a lot of that comes down to sacrificing short-term gains, short-term profits, short-term patience, things that are going to really, we're going to have to put in a bit of work in the first instance, in the first period of time, that are really, really going to pay off in the long term. And there was an experiment done. The first time I heard about this, the power of this, is when they did an experiment in the schools, and it was a marshmallow test. And they said, here's one marshmallow. I'm going to go out the room, and if you eat the marshmallow, you can have the marshmallow. But if you wait till I come back, you can have another one. And they went back and tested these kids later in university, and the ones that waited and delayed gratification for the second one, they were academically proven to be better off than the people that didn't. And that says it all. So we all know that there's long-term benefits to sacrificing short-term gains. In business, it's really hard. And I think the biggest problem is when you start a business, it's bloody hard. And you want to reward yourself quickly. You're like, I've just done all this work, I've done all this. I'm the only one working this late at night. I've put 7 hours, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for the last 4 months. The first payment that comes in, I need to go and book a break. I need to go and book a holiday. I need to reward myself in some way, right?
And this is the whole reward thing is really interesting as well, because you see a lot of business owners, they want to reward themselves, and I've never really had that. I've always just enjoyed what I was doing, and even when I wasn't enjoying it, I've never thought, right, I'm now going to reward myself with buying this or buying that. And some people do that, and it works for them. But for me,
I think it's subconsciously a lot of the time.
yeah, I think just watching the business grow is the reward, right?
Yeah.
Like you sacrifice something short term, you delay gratification, you sacrifice something, whether that's money or time or whatever it is, and in return, your business grows, right? What I've then done over the years is the business has grown, and I've just repeated it. I've just reinvested all the growth and the money that we've made back into the business to grow it faster. And that's why we've grown quite quickly, especially in the last three to 5 years. Whereas a lot of people, they'll then use their business like an ATM, take the money out, think very short-sighted. I need to feel good again. I need to reward myself for the hard work I've done, and it just slows down the whole thing. And the ironic thing about that is they've kind of got this feast and famine approach to their business, and it's like hard work. Now I need to be rewarded. Hard work, and now I need to be rewarded. And they work in these little sprints all the time, rather than having this consistent, daily habit routine for their business, the repeatable business week or whatever it is, where they consistently have the same approach for years and years and years and grow something incredible and life-changing. Instead, they use their business like an ATM, think short-sighted, they take out what they can to quickly make themselves feel better, have a quick dopamine hit, and it damages their business long term, right?
Yeah.
Reinvesting back in your business, reinvesting into innovating and evolving your product or service, having complete, obsession with improving your product, reinvesting in your team on their professional development, growing the team, all that sort of stuff, for me is just so important. And I had this conversation the other day with someone, and I was saying, and you probably relate to this as well, it's like, if I was going to bring a bunch of money out of the business, I was going to pay myself more, right? What would I spend it on? Because I feel like I've got everything in my life that I want to do, right? I've got a nice home, we go on holidays as a family, and we have experiences which are so important. We save and invest enough. So for me, what I actually get the most joy out of is actually spending money on the business. And that might sound strange because a lot of people think their business is a business and it's separate. But I just love spending money on the business and watching it grow and innovating, creating new things and building a team. For me, it's like that is one of the biggest joys in my life. So it's probably a lot easier for me not to treat it like an ATM and pull money out because I enjoy that aspect of it so much.
Yeah. And you're doing something you enjoy, obviously.
Yeah.
This is a quick shout out to the sponsor of this show, Shield, who help us deliver this podcast along with all the social media that goes with it to help us get it out to more people, which leaves us to focus on just creating more great conversations. If you want to start, delegate or optimize your social media or podcast, or if you want to build your very own online course or program, get in touch with the team at shieldglobal.io. I think not just the financial side, well, I guess it is the financial side, but there are ways where, firstly, it doesn't have to take long. I mean, we're talking long-term gain, short-term sacrifices. You're talking like maybe 3 to 5 years, to really get it into a real momentum kind of sweet spot. And if you do it the right way, it can be done even quicker. And a lot of that is to do with delegation. So from day one, if you're a solopreneur or you're limited to you, maybe you've got a partner, really quickly, don't waste any time on documenting and journaling everything you're doing in the business, right? So video training, use Loom. Loom's amazing. Oh. Every process, every email you write, how you respond to people via email, what is the process for doing the payroll, paying a tax bill, what is the process for setting up a user on your platform or whatever it might be, right? And you just record all of those assets and then you start sharing that with
a little hack here, just for fun. I'll tell you a quick story about how we use Loom to do this, right? We had I think it was about 10 staff or 12 staff at the time in the Warrior Academy, and I asked everyone to write down their individual job description and roles and every single task they did. And so every person had about 20 to 30 different tasks that they specifically did. And so then what we did is actually maybe more than that, maybe up to 40 or 50. And then what we did is I said, right, now that you've written down everything, here is an instructional video on how to deliver a perfect 3-minute Loom video. So a Loom on how to do a Loom, right? An instructional video on how to do an instructional video. And then once everyone understood that and they had passed, they understood how to make a Loom video, their job was then, in one day, to make a 3-minute Loom video for every task they did. And then overnight, within 24 hours, we had a 400 video lesson course on how to do every single thing inside the business. So if you've got a team right now and you're like, how can I document what I'm doing so that I can scale and have a longer term viewpoint on my business, I can delegate and grow faster, then this is the way to do it, right? Get your team to write down everything they do, teach them how to make the perfect video, and then just say, right, and one day we're going to record everything, a good mic, everyone has a good mic, a good camera, whatever it is you need. And then you've got everything you need. So when you onboard someone else, they can literally they can pick up the video file and go through the 30 videos. It saves you time so you can delegate more and you can work with a bigger team.
And if one of them goes on holiday, they just show them the video training, right? We've got to replace this, do the training, you're covered for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it might be. Once you do that, like, you start prioritizing what you love doing most and what you like doing least. And then you start delegating and reinvesting the money onto getting rid of those really low value. I'll give you an example. The day that I stopped doing emails was the day my life completely changed. Like I was doing customer emails, like, and I'd probably have 50 to 100 emails to get through every single day. And it'd take me hours. And by the time I'd done it, I'm like,
you're exhausted.
Exhausted.
The thing that made your business so good in the first place was having the energy to be creative. And if you're stuck doing some of the other things, like the admin, the sales, the marketing, whatever it is that you don't really enjoy, then it's going to reduce your creativity. And ultimately, as an entrepreneur, you need to be so creative. And for that, you need to be removing yourself from a functional place into a vital place, right? A good example, I've been told in the past was, a can opener is a very functional bit of kit. A can opener's purpose is to open the can. A painting on the wall like the ones around here, they are not that functional, right? They don't actually have a purpose other than to look great and to inspire people or make you think creatively. But what's interesting there is they play a vital role, because a painting up there can really inspire you to change the way you're thinking, or can brighten your mood, or that painting can be worth a lot more than the can opener for what it's doing for that specific moment, even though it's not a functional task. So I think as you grow as an entrepreneur, you move from functional to vital. As you look at this like a long game, right? As you look at this as a career, you go from functional to vital. And suddenly those early morning walks you do where you journal on your phone are more important than actually doing the functional work. Because ultimately those are the things that guide the business and move it in the direction you want it to go in. It's interesting when you think about entrepreneur as a career, because no one does, right? Like if you're watching this and you've gone to uni, or you obviously know people who've gone to uni, they may invest 5 years of their life and £50,000 into this degree, a bachelor's and a master's. After that, they may then spend the next 5 years, if they're lucky, maybe 10 years, paying that off before they can save any money. So ultimately, it's 15 years of their life and 50 grand until they're at level 0, where they can then start saving and earning more than they were before, right? With entrepreneurship, people don't look at it like that. They expect to start a business and make money straight away. Whereas my approach is, look, see this as a career, see it long term. Say to yourself, I'm going to spend the next 5 years learning and testing and tweaking and just becoming very, very good at entrepreneurial skills and tasks, and understand more and more about it, more about this game that I'm getting into. And then I'll start to be able to pay that off over the next 10 years. And you often see it's not linear, right? A lot of people look at this like linear. For us, we were kind of low six figures with the business for the first 10 years. And then we were, mid-range 7 figures straight away, 3 years after. So it's like 12 years into the business, suddenly bang, everything starts coming together because you've started to compound all those lessons you learned, all the experiences you've had. But it's when you compare those two things, traditional education and a career and a job, compared to entrepreneurship, it's because we're so new to this entrepreneurship kind of style, it's very, very difficult for us to see it long term. But it absolutely is a career. And not only that, it's a career that you're learning skills that can protect you. It can protect you in an economic collapse or recession or a pandemic, as we've seen before.
Amazing. I agree. And I want to touch on something that's slightly different in terms of short-term, long-term gains, and it's going to be very relevant to your business. And we've kind of covered traffic and leads and all the rest of it. But what I see a lot of now as well is the expectation of social media platforms to blow up, YouTube to blow up, particularly with kids, right? Even if it's not entrepreneurs watching this, I mean, it's frightening to see kids give up on stuff so quick because they're not blowing up. And I think entrepreneurs feel the same. It's like, well, I tried Instagram stories for a month and I didn't really see any sales. Sales, like it's not even linked. Traffic and sales, not linked. We've been through all the steps in between, right? So I have grinded away at YouTube. I've grinded away. If you go onto my Instagram now and divide all of my videos or posts over the years that I've been on there, it's a post a day. That's basically what it averages out to.
The overnight success took like 10 years.
Yeah, but then there's the compound, right? I've also worked with YouTubers who have got 6 million followers and they're getting lots and lots of love on their channel. But for 10 years or about 5-7 year mark, that's where it started to take off. No one knew they were doing for 10 years.
Uploading videos and they got 0 views.
Zero views.
And then suddenly 10 years later, they're one of the most
Biggest.
well-known within their field on the planet.
Yeah.
But just 5 years ago, isn't that incredible? Just 5 years ago, this same person's uploading a video and no one's interested. No one's viewed it.
No.
It's incredible.
And social media, right? So you are going to go through a period of getting no views, no likes, no comments, right? And then you go for a period of getting some comments, then you'll go for a period of getting hate comments, then you'll get for a period of getting raving fan comments. And you have to go through this journey on social media. I've said before, the 2-year apprenticeship on social media, right? Show up every day, give value every day, give yourself 2 years, and your life will be transformed in 2 years. That's all it takes. That's not a long time. What people are doing, they're going, well, I paid a social media manager and I did it for a month and didn't really see anything.
Didn't work.
Didn't
make any
Doesn't
sales.
work, so I'm gonna try something else. I'm gonna do something else. You have to put the work. You have to be consistent, and you have to give yourself at least 6 to 12 months to see that, the second or third stage of that journey kick in.
And it's interesting as well when you think about that. One of the things that Dan Priestley, when he was on the episode, spoke about, if you go back to that one and you can see when he was speaking about leads, was about this divide happening between content creators and those who don't. And if you don't start now on this 2-year journey, you'll be left behind. Because of things like AI, it's going to create an even bigger divide out there. So if you don't start getting involved now and creating an enormous amount of content and giving value and being a creator versus a consumer, then you're not going to be there. The jump will be too big, right? So those 2 years needs to start now. You can't wait. You can't do it in a few weeks or a few months or wait till next year or even wait till Monday. What is it with everyone wanting to wait till Monday for everything, right? It's like, you forget to do your morning routine. It's Wednesday. I'll just start on Monday. But the reality there is, if you develop a habit and you miss it once, that's a mistake, right? If you miss it 2 days in a row, that's a formation of a new habit.
Yeah.
And the same way,
intention.
Exactly. And I think just building content creation into your habits, right? Your daily habit routine, your perfect repeatable week, whatever it is. This is now the way of life as a business owner. So it's so important that you just do that. Don't wait, don't delay, and don't just start it on Monday. Don't be that guy or girl, right? Get involved straight away. Pick up your phone right now, come up with some things to say, and just start the process. Just start the process. Simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can vouch. Like I've been doing YouTube, social media. Just this month, it's really taking off, and that's like 7 years of the YouTube, right? That's a tough gig. With the social media, it was quicker than that, but it was all down to consistency. And again, having that long-term view, not beating myself up over blowing up overnight. It was like, right, this is what I'm going to be committing to for years potentially, and this is what I love doing. So now I'm just going to figure out how I can enjoy it the most, and how I can then get closer to just doing the few things that I really love. And building the systems and processes so I can delegate all the rest. I'm reinvesting everything until you get to a point where it's exponential, and there's this compound effect that takes place, and all of a sudden, you're bringing in lots more money, lots more sales, lots more followers, changing more lives, and you really get a sense of fulfillment there. And unlike the pizza and beer guy who's just basically lost all his meaning, it was like,
that was the moment.
Yeah, that's it. You feel meaningless.
And even if that's like a 20-year goal, it's almost short-sighted, right?
Yeah.
Because the long game, the infinite game, is something you're willing to play for the rest of your life. If you've got an end goal to it, it's no longer a long game. Which kind of brings me to the charity that I've built. So I've founded a charity called the Bates Foundation, which sits alongside our work with the Warrior Academy, which essentially helps children in impoverished areas, orphanages, homeless shelters, transition centres where kids are addicted to drugs and alcohol, that sort of stuff, street kids, or primary schools with a lot of poverty and children have to walk 4 hours to get to school for their one meal. These sorts of locations in developing countries like Kenya, Nepal, Sri Lanka, India, where we go in now and we develop their character through martial arts. So using the vehicle of the Warrior Academy and the system of the Warrior Academy, now, I started this a year ago, almost exactly a year ago actually, and now for every paying member we've got in the Warrior Academy, of which we've got 2,000 per week, we've now got a student on a scholarship. So for every one paying member, we've got a child on a scholarship. That's 2,000 orphans a week that we're now sponsoring, right? And for me, that's an infinite game. Well, that's a game I could play for the rest of my life. That's something which goes beyond,
It's a problem you can never solve.
Right, and exactly, and this is why and what we're finding is we go into these locations and it's like, okay, what else can we do? Now that the community trusts us and we're part of this orphanage, we're starting to spot other problems within education, within healthcare, within the infrastructure, and we know we have the skills or the network or the contacts to help support that. You start to understand where else you can find value and give value in your life. But I think after this, we should do another episode on charity work and just, what would be a good versus series for that would be something like profit versus impact or passion or something. Or purpose, yeah. Profit versus purpose and how you can build philanthropy into your business and why you should and the right way to do it would be a really good episode and how it can impact your team and actually your business's growth. And that'd be really cool to do.
Really cool. So look, who are we talking to here? We're talking to people, hopefully this episode's inspired the people who were just feeling a little bit, I'm just not getting anywhere. You are getting somewhere. It's you're very early stages, even if you're a 10-year business, 20-year business, still early stages, right? So
you could lose it all. If you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s, you could lose it all, start from scratch, and you could still be the most successful person in the world doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
Just look at some of the case studies out there, right? Some of the most successful business owners that you know of, or actors or sports people or whatever, they've had incredibly difficult times, or they've won it all and lost it all. And for me, what I find most inspiring is not the entrepreneurs who have just built something from scratch, whatever it is, and it's gone really well and it's got really big. I love the stories of people who have got it all and then they risked it all, right? Like Elon Musk when he sold PayPal or something, and then he was just like reinvested everything, like sleeping on sofas and stuff, back into a new business where it may or may not work. For me, I love that, that kind of approach because it's such long-term thinking. He's not thinking, if this fails, if I don't make that sale, then it's a disaster, because that's very scarcity mindset, right? Abundance mindset, growth mindset is about looking at your whole life, looking at a 50, 60, 100-year plan. And if you really believe in what you're doing, then I think it's the case you should double down, you should take those jumps. It's easier to take big risks if you think long term. Well, just like you do in the market, right? You don't have a heart attack every time it drops a little bit. You zoom out and you're like, cool, what's the big picture here? Yeah. And the best traders do that, and they're able to have that discipline, with avoiding the short-term gratification and the short-term stress and the worry because they've got a long-term view.
So instead of saying, when is it going to end? When is this thing going to let me finish?
Then I'll be happy.
Then I'll be happy. Instead, just think, how can I make this more enjoyable? And how can I do more of the things I love? And how can we grow this thing into something that's going to be really, really incredible? Because that's where all the opportunities come anyway. And a great thing that you can do, literally, is think about what problem you can't possibly solve in your life, whether that's world safety, world preservation of whatever it might be. Pick something and see if you can align your business to that mission and see how that helps you zoom out and just see all your little day-to-day problems as a blip, and it'll get you more excited about building something massive. So I think that's a good place to wrap up.
Yeah, next episode we'll do that.
Yeah, purpose, profit versus
purpose.
Perfect. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. I've been Jason Graystone.
I'm Sebastian Bates.
And check us out on the next one. See you then. If you're enjoying these podcasts, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're really getting value from these, we'd really love it if you could let us know on our review page. We'll see you next week.